The Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God. The Bible. The Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God. The Bible, the Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God. The Bible.
B, read it backwards, read it forwards, read it backwards. I, for your insides, for your outsides, for your insides. A, make you brave, make you bold, make you brave. L, E, love forever, ever, ever. B, read it backwards, read it forwards, read it backwards. I, for your insides, for your outsides, for your insides. B, make you brave, make you bold, make you brave. L, E, love forever, ever, ever.
The Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God. The Bible, the Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God. The Bible.
B, read it backwards, read it forwards, read it backwards. I, for your insides, for your outsides, for your insides. A, make you brave, make you bold, make you brave. L, E, love forever, ever, ever. B, read it backwards, read it forwards, read it backwards. I, for your insides, for your outsides, for your insides. E, make you brave, make you bold, make you brave. L, E, love forever, ever, ever.
Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop and go. Go. Stop and listen to what God says. Go and do what He tells you to do. Stop and listen to what God says. Go and do what He tells you to do. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop and go. Go. Stop and listen to what God says. Go and do what He tells you to do. Stop and listen to what God says. Go and do what He tells you to do. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop. Stop and go. Stop and go. Stop and go. Go. We're gonna stop. Be still and know He is God. We're gonna go. Let our life always show His love. Yeah. Woo!
everybody. I'm so glad to see you. If you're excited to be here, let me hear you say If you're excited to be here, let me hear you say yada 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 yada. Yada 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 yada. If you're excited to be here, let me hear you say Wow, you kids are great at making silly sounds. That's good because today we're in the Silly Sound Factory. We're going to be hearing and making all sorts of sounds that help us tell the Bible story. Today's true Bible story is going to teach us that God always keeps his promises. That's our big idea for the day. Can you say it with me? God always keeps his promises. It's true, God always keeps his promises. We know that because our memory verse from the Bible tells us so. Let me teach it to you. The Lord is faithful and will keep all of his promises. Psalm 145:13. Let's do it one more time. The Lord is faithful and will keep all of his promises. Psalm 145:13. Has anyone ever told you that they were going to do something, but then they didn't do it? Maybe somebody said that they were going to take you to play at the park, but then they forgot. Or maybe somebody said that they would share their ice cream with you, but then they ate it all. Or maybe somebody said that you could pick the TV show to watch, but then they started playing their own show. Unfortunately, everybody breaks their promises sometimes. Everybody except for God. God is different from people. If God says he's going to do something, he always does it. In today's true Bible story, we're going to learn that God always keeps his promises. And here's the really fun part. We get to use these sound jars to tell the Bible story. When Debbie opens a jar, you have to be oh so quiet and listen for the sound that comes out. When you hear the sound, you get to tell her what you think it is. Listen carefully though, because one of the jars has a happy song in it. If you hear the happy song, you get to jump to your feet and do the happy dance with her. If you're ready to hear today's true Bible story, give me 2 big thumbs up.
A long time ago, there was a man named Abram who loved God with his whole heart. One day, God said to Abram, "Leave your home and go to another land. I will show you how to get there." Let's open our first sound jar and see if we can figure out what sound is inside. Shh. Listen carefully. It's the sound of footsteps. Let's make the sound of footsteps together. Lightly tap your feet on the floor with me. Abram and his wife, Sarah, walked and walked and walked. They walked over hills, they walked through valleys, they walked through forests, and they walked through deserts. They walked all the way to a place called Canaan, and then they stopped. Let's open our second jar and see what happened next. Do you know what sound that could be? It's a crowd of people talking. Let's see if we can make the sound of a crowd together. Let's say the word murmur over and over. Murmur, 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 murmur. When Abram and Sarah got to Canaan, there was already a crowd of people living there. God said to Abram, "One day, many years from now, I will give this land to your family who will come after you." Let's open our third sound jar and see if we can figure out what sound is inside. It's the sound of crying. Can you make a crying sound with me? Many years later, Abram was feeling very sad because he was getting old and he didn't have any children. So he prayed to God and said, I still don't have any children. When I die, I won't have any family to give my things to. Let's open our fourth sound jar. Wow, it's the sound of crickets at night. Can you make a cricket chirping sound with me? God saw that Abram was sad about not having children, so he took Abram outside during the nighttime and said, look up at the sky, count the stars if you can. Abram looked up at the stars. There wasn't just one star. There wasn't just two stars. There weren't just 3 stars. There were so many stars that Abram couldn't even count them all. God said to Abram, I will give you as many children in your family as there are stars in the sky. Wow, that's a big family. When Abram heard this, he fell face down on the ground. God said to him, this is my promise to you. Your name will no longer be Abram. Instead, you will be called Abraham, because you will be the father of many nations, nations with great kings, and I will always be their God. My promise to you will last forever and ever. Let's open our very last sound jar and see what's inside. It's the happy dance music. Jump to your feet and do the happy dance with me. I'm so happy that God always keeps his promises.
In our story for today, God promised to give Abraham 2 things. Does anyone remember what those 2 things were? If you said God promised to give Abraham a new land to live in and a big family with lots of children, then you're right. Do you think God kept his promise to Abraham? Yes, God did keep his promise to Abraham. Many years later, God gave Abraham's family the land he had promised. They called it the Promised Land. And even though Abraham was very old, God gave him a child too. Then that child had more children, and those children had more children. Then those children had even more children. And on and on and on until Abraham's family had as many children as there are stars in the sky. Best of all, one day, long after Abraham had died, a special baby was born into Abraham's family. That baby was named Jesus. Sometimes people don't keep their promises to us, but God is different from people. If God says he's going to do something, he always does it. God always keeps his promises. Hey, that's our big idea for today. I think we should go tell Topher. I found Topher. I think he's having a nap though. Let's wake him up on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Wake up, Topher.
Oh, what's a big deal?
Remember, God always keeps his promises. God always keeps his promises.
Oh, that is a big deal. Thank you for telling me, kids. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Topher. Let's say a prayer and thank God for always keeping his promises. Fold your hands and bow your heads. Dear God, you are an awesome God. Thank you for always keeping your promises. We believe that your word is true. Amen. Well, thanks for joining us today in the Silly Sound Factory. We'll see you next time.